I'd like to welcome everyone to the January meeting of the Florida End of Life Doula Alliance. We have a monthly Zoom where we touch on different topics. Today is January 9th, 2025, and we have a special time here today with Anna Schwait and myself. We're going to facilitate a conversation as the new year is just beginning called Cleaning, Clearing, and Preparing for a New Year. So I'm going to introduce Anna Schwait and let her introduce the topic. Anna?
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, what happened was that as we've been presenting to the Gainesville community at the senior center, what a few people mentioned this idea that they have heard about the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning. And so I thought it would be a good way to start the year to go through the book, which I had read, but now read it and create an outline so that I could present it um, to the public or to us now, to doulas and to others who are interested. And when I realize now that when I picked this subject of cleaning and then I added clearing, that clearing component became an internal world that becomes, and the reason that I'm doing it is because I'm going through this process myself. And when I hit that internal world of like, what is all this stuff coming up about all of my belonging, I realized that that was a huge part of it. And also preparing to do the work. And so um, from my own perspective, I wanted to introduce the topic. First of all, though, I wanted to honor the work of Margareta Magnusson, who did create a book and left a guideline. She was between the ages of 80 and 100 when she wrote the book. It's very simple, mainly provides tips, but I did want to follow her guidance and introduce it. What I found out is that it's not a topic so much for the end of life, although it comes up as an urgent topic after a certain age. She says 65. I would say in any time that you are at a place at home where you're starting to recognize and become aware that you have a lot of belongings, that at the time of your death, you don't know what's going to happen to them. And you want to become prepared with that idea. So right off, she says, this is not a sad topic. And I want to emphasize that. I want it to be an empowering topic, not a sad one. I want it when I do it for myself, and this is the practice that I'm embracing for this year for myself, to begin to look at my items. And one thing that she said as she opened the book, and I'll read directly her words: do not ever imagine that anyone will wish. No, please, let me read it again. Do not ever imagine that anyone will wish or be able to schedule time off to take care of what you did not bother to take care of yourself. No matter how much they love you, don't leave this burden to them. And just those two lines were enough to stop me in my tracks to consider, what am I doing here? I'm living my life. I'm having this wonderful experience, and I have collected more things that I want to tell you about. I have so many belongings that I have enjoyed thoroughly and currently enjoy, and I want to be at peace. So I have to find now this balance as I enter into this stretch of my life. And why does it seem so urgent to me? Well, those of us who work with death and dying certainly know the reality of that event when it comes. But in my life, even though I'm not yet diagnosed with something that's going to come and take my life, I do know that there are days that I feel really good and vital and can do most anything, and other days I am flat out. I wouldn't think about anything if I had to. I wouldn't want to know where the vases are going to be left to. I couldn't think of my figurines or my collections. So the time is now to begin to process this and to begin to organize this. So I started on this endeavor while I have the mental faculties as well, because I know that I saw it in my own mother. Once she hit into her late 80s, mid 80s, 85, her mind started to go. She couldn't remember and couldn't register things. And I say, okay, let me pay attention now to where I find myself that I can take care of these things. She started her process, Margareta did, because she had to do 2 death cleanings. She described this in the book. Her parents had been married 46 years, and her mother died. Her father had to now downsize and move into a smaller apartment. Margareta was married and had 5 children at the time. And this was the task that she was assigned to help her father to select the things that were necessary and vital to him and that he loved and wanted to keep, but the rest, what to do with. So she started on this work, and what she found surprised her. Her mother had actually begun the death cleaning. She left items in boxes labeled, contact this person, they'll take it. She left clothes that she knew were historical meaning that could go to a museum. And she said, please deliver them to this person. She had books and music, everything sorted out. Most things sorted out. There were things she still had to delve through and go, but she said that she described feeling consoled, like her mother was there with her, like she was being guided and knew what to do. And she knew, more importantly, what her mother wanted her to do with the belongings. She found some cigarette cases and some gin bottles as she went through, and she lovingly just discarded them, but made a note to herself. If it's only for my eyes, it's going to be only for my eyes. She said, I'm not going to keep it around. So journals, she talked about, letters, things that you don't want to have your children or your friends or whoever's rummaging through to find and discover. So she left that counsel. And then as she continued on in her life, her husband of 48 years died. And I could only imagine that she goes into talking about the loss that comes with that, the experience of just the transition that comes with that. So having to start a life now without him. And she did the death cleaning for him and downsized and went into her own unit at that time. So with these 2 experiences, she realized that it was up to her now to go through her belongings so that her children didn't have to encounter the task that she did not want to leave them as a burden. And I think that there's a lot to reflect on that. From a doula's perspective, the time is now. The time is always now. I know that in my life, it hasn't seemed important. Maybe I've been thinking that, not maybe, I have been thinking that life is linear, that it's going to go on, that it continues, that I'm healthy, that everything is good, that I have nothing to be concerned about. Certainly, I can take care of someone else, but I think it's time to take care of what I need to take care of. And I wanted to present the topic to see and share it with you to see if anything of this resonates with you. And if we can imagine that we can leave the whole work of our lifetime towards the very end, it's very limiting. And so I don't want to focus on dying. I want to focus on living. I want to focus on being here now. I want to focus on enjoying what I have. And the first step that she started with is to take an inventory of what we have. And I began that process. I looked through, first of all, things that as I retired from my job, I no longer needed. I had kept lectures and information, PowerPoint slides, books, thinking that maybe someday I'd go back and give a lecture here or there. And 8 years later, none of that's happening. And so it was time to get the shredder out. and to sit with that process and let things go and give the books to the library where hopefully some other interested people would read about the subject matter. And that's what she recommends that we do. Start with an area that doesn't have a lot of emotional attachment. Although initially that place of having been retired and coming off of being a professor with status someplace now became a shredded pile. And I thought, it's good and timely that I take care of this. Start with an area that didn't feel as charged for me. And it took 8 years to lose that charge. And I'm ready now to continue on with other things. She gave areas of suggestions. She says, where do we start? Start with your clothes in your closet. Look at your different wardrobes. If you have clothes that you wear when you go to work and when you go to a meeting, when you go to an event, take a look at that and start going through those items. Take a look at your shoes. Take a look at your handbags. And then she mentions other areas, your kitchen, your bathroom. She said, look in the kitchen and take a glance of how many cups or glasses or plates. And then I looked at ours. We have 2 full sets of dishes. 2 people live here. Valuable real estate and what somebody else could use. And so a recommendation is, if you're done using it, see what else you could do with it, where you could donate it, that it can be used, or if you want to try selling it, go for that and see if you can get some of your money back from it. And if it's no longer useful, then it needs to be discarded. Then she went on to linen closets, arts, crafts, supplies of that nature, music, books. Okay, books I had to stop at because that's a big one. One of my friends who I did death cleaning for, that was my own personal experience that I can share about. He left everything taken care of, boxes marked where he wanted his bigger items gone, going back to, and he had everything figured out with an attorney, and that was taken care of. There was one room that had all the miscellaneous, and that became my job to go in there and sort through all those things that he had. And I began that task. It took me a month of going there daily to go through that paperwork. I found his diploma. He graduated as a music PhD from Harvard. He never had it framed. It was folded and crumpled, written in Latin, dated 1931. He died in 1995, and I haven't been able to throw it away. I know what it meant to him, and I know what it means to me. And it doesn't take up much room. So I have a box of doesn't take up much room. I'm not getting rid of it because it means something to me. And I think that's a strong criteria. And I think it may be the only criteria because there can be guilt. I don't want to get rid of that because what if they come over and I've gotten rid of it? There can be a sentimental attachment. Oh, but they left this to me and I feel responsible. It could be something that I bought that's expensive. And now I felt like I'm getting away my hard-earned money. But in reality, am I going to be any poorer if I give away something? I don't think I'll financially be poorer. And so all of these things started to surface. And I found this really ridiculous little toy that I shared. And it's made out of applied particle wood. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little circle of chickens. And with this little circle, when I move it around, they peck. I bought it for a grandchild, and immediately one of the chickens got plucked off. And I thought, okay, children cannot play with it. But my mother developed Lewy body dementia in her late 80s. And that's a very difficult diagnosis to deal with. She loved these chickens. She sat with them and she would twirl them, and she found joy, and I could hear her talking to them and naming them and enjoying them. And I can't get rid of the chickens. I have them out on display actually because they remind me of something, and they can take me back immediately to something valuable for me. And I'm going to keep that. And then as I was talking to my youngest daughter, she said, and I told her about the chickens, she goes, Mom, I want you to leave them to me. And I felt relief that the chickens have a home when I'm not here. It seems silly, but I want to connect with this emotion that comes up. And that's where the clearing part came in. And what I realized very quickly as I started to go through this list of all of the things that I haven't yet finished with, it was that there's emotion attached to my belongings. It represents my life. It tells the story. And I want to be prepared to look at everything around me and say, this I will offer to this person. This, I've told my daughters, all of these items belong back to a temple and they know where to go. All of my indigenous items, if they don't want them, ceremonial tools go back to where I give an instruction. And these certain items I have left for people, but the rest of the stuff, feel free to donate, feel free to go through, find a need. And I am listing the agencies, the people. There's a church, there's a family, there's the migrant workers. There are different people that are in my scope of world that I want to be able to facilitate these things to. Do I feel morose or morbid or horrible about it? I don't. Actually, I'm finding a sense of peace with it. I'm finding that I'm getting a sense that I am living my life and that I get to decide what to do with these items as I go through. And then there's bigger things like furniture and maybe perhaps expensive artwork or things that might be valuable to the community for cultural work or museum work if you've been in Gainesville a long time. And there's collections. There's collections of things. I myself have a collection of turtles. And what am I going to do with that? Who will take them? And then I read there's all kinds of collections of the strangest things and of the most wonderful things, but they're ours and they identify us, that journey, that part of our life. So I don't want to be dismissive about any of it. When the emotion comes up, what do I do with it? That becomes the clearing part. How do we sit when there's a painful one, when there's a memory of a strong will or perhaps an ill will, when there's a memory of something that caused pain, betrayal, hurt, loss, grief. And I felt like some of these folks that are involved in my particular life journey are no longer here. So I can't sit down with them and have this talk. This clearing has to happen within me. I have to be at peace. And then I have to be able to be the one to say, I'm sorry for that. I say it to myself. Because you know what? I've spent a lifetime. If you heard that I was a nurse since 1981, you know that that's a lifetime of serving and working and doing that. And some of you have had long-term careers, so you know what I'm talking about. And we have had families. We've served well. But now is the time for me to take care of my own internal realm, my world of what do I feel? What do I need? What do I clean out? What's valuable and what can I let go of? The term in the Swedish term of the death cleaning means letting go of unnecessary things. And I think that captures it. Can I let go of unnecessary things. And the emotions that come up with them, I would say, are necessary for me to take a look and see, where are they stirring from? What causes it? How can I make a relationship with it? What do I need to do to be at peace with that one? And a lot of times it calls for forgiving myself. I'm sorry for my role in it. I'm sorry that I've carried it so long. I'm sorry that I've relived it so many times, but it took me this long. I'm a slow learner. It took me this long, and I'm here now and I'm willing to do the work. So I feel very open to the process of saying, I'm sorry, to saying, I accept responsibility, of saying, I want to be able to forgive myself. You know, the Ho'oponopono process is asking someone else to forgive you if you've offended someone. You say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. But the reality of our world is that that person may not be ready to forgive, or they may not be here to forgive. And so then what do? We have to be the ones to forgive. And in order for anybody ever to forgive me, I have to be able to forgive myself. I have to come into that place. I have to be able to forgive everything that I did that may have hurt my children, that may have hurt my family, that may have been the best intention that I had, but it came out like that. And I want to be able to be gentle with this old soul of mine so that I can start to be at peace and do this work that I have to do now. And a ton of stuff comes up. And it was more than I had bargained for. And I thought, you know what? I think you picked a big topic of trying to squeeze this clearing part underneath the cleaning. As Angela knows, she says she has a business. The cleaning part in a closet could take a day or a few days. I'm talking about a lifetime. But what I know is this. Having studied and gone into the nurse practitioner world and practiced that the body is fixed. I mean, a hand is always a hand, and our cells replicate and become cells that are familiar to the area. But our soul, our inner being, our essence, who you are on the inside, what defines you, is ever changing and ever growing and is not confined to anything. And so that we do, in fact, have the ability to process. So I offer, take us up as doulas, take us up as grief counselors, take us up as a community that joins every month. How about that we join and we talk about these things, or whatever comes up for you to talk about as we continue on in this year of 2025, because we're all in this together. You know, we're all going through this process at the same time at once. And it's nice to have someone along the way that we can say, hey, how is it going over there for you? Yeah, this is what I'm dealing with over here. And I do extend that invitation because we're here and we're available. And I certainly would be willing to talk with anyone or process with anyone, or would love the support of anyone as I go through this journey here, because we want to have a life that's well lived. I mean, and I look now that I can almost check that, you know how when you're looking for an expiration date on a package, I spend a lot of time doing that because I tend to buy BOGOs and they expire before I got to them. But I'm looking closely. I can't quite see the expiration date on my life, but I know it's best if used by. I like that instruction. I'm going to pass that along. Your life is best if you use it by the time that it's expired. Go for it. Don't stop. Don't wait. Don't delay. Let's do this work together, and we'll have help along the way as we do the work together. And I would like to explore this inner memory lane that we go through, this inner journey that we go through, and be at peace with that. Because letting go is difficult. Letting go of anything is difficult. But you know what the dying process is? The dying process is a letting go. It's a big letting go. And I have told this example before. When I was a young nurse in South Miami, I worked as a visiting nurse doing end-of-life care. We had a lot of HIV/AIDS patients who were dying. We didn't know what was going on, but I was doing home health nursing for them, and I walked into the most beautiful um, apartment that I had ever been in. It was the top floor, the studio apartment of a very wealthy man who lived there. The view overlooked Biscayne Bay, and it was stunning, breathtaking in there. The quality of the items that he had and the arrangement. And I walked through just in awe, this young 33, 34-year-old nurse, mesmerized. And when I saw him, he was in his bed, and his window overlooked the Atlantic Ocean. And I caught myself and said, I have been admiring all of your belongings and where you live. And he said, I would give it all to you. I will give it all to you right now if you could stop this dying process. And it was probably one of the most one-on-one sobering moments that I've had with an individual looking at my eyes. And I recognize then that it isn't the things that we surround ourselves with. When that time comes, we have to be at peace with where we're at internally, not what we're surrounded with. And it left a lifelong lesson for me that caused me to pursue this work. And with death as the clarifier of all things. Because when I'm sick, and I've been sick and close to death, I don't think about my belongings or my jewelry that I treasure so much. I don't think too much about that. I think about my family and letting go. So let's start now. Let's begin this process now. And I hope that we can find support in each other so that we can lift each other up and not think of it as a dismal topic, but more something of freedom, that we can start to find our freedom and our joy. Thank you so much for listening, and I invite comments.
Oh, thank you so much, Anna. That just took me really deep. I could visualize that interaction with that fellow. And so I want to share a little bit about my process. The emotional aspect of it is really it hits me. I started to realize that well, this is my husband's house that we're in, and when he dies and I die, it will become his two daughters. And it just dawned on me that my stuff is going to end up with them, which is really awkward. I better get on it, you know. And the photo that you see behind me here is my daughter Naomi. And she died in 2015, and she was born into my trauma. So I've had a lot of work to do, and I'm still working it on just releasing. And I think that as I go through and really start to do this work of letting go of things, that it will clear me more and more, and free me up more and more, because I won't feel guilty for clinging to these things. And for example, she had addiction and depression, so she was in 12-step groups, and I still have one of her books from there, an AA book, and but I had her little notebook that she had written in, and she would write things to people in meetings like, I think this would be a good time for you to surrender. um, telling other people what they should do. But she also had a list of her character defects and a list of her blessings, and in her own handwriting. So finally, I took that little, booklet, it's about this big, and I ripped out 2 pages and I threw the thing away, and that was like a step for me to just say, look, I can still keep those few notes in her writing, but I don't want this material. And when you tactily touch these things, you're like, you can look at them and say, I have a bunch of the old pencils with the like eraser. Is that a thing? Is it, but I also have this kind, with the twisty. I have so many pencils and pens. And then I think about the people who have just had these fires and have lost their homes, and the women's abuse shelter, and these clothes that are my skinny clothes from when I was 25 pounds lighter that are still in my closet. And that even if I were to fit into them, would I really wear them because of the style and the fabric? And I mean, it's just overwhelming and it's daunting. But when you frame it that way of what a gift it is to myself and to the people around me to get the stuff out of here, repurpose it. And so that when they are looking around when we're gone, they'd be like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. Instead of what the heck is this? Boxes of papers and files. And my excuse for keeping all the papers is that, well, I'm going to write a book someday. So I'm going to have to go and look and see. Well, you know what? I can take notes of my dad's plaques, his wooden, awards and his plaques that meant so much to him. I can note who gave him the award and when it was. And that's all I need is keep putting it in files. So it's really, but the thing that's bothering me is, why do I keep procrastinating? I've been thinking about it for so long. I've been starting little tiny bits, but I still have areas where like I've pulled out the boxes from under my bed. Yay. But now they're all around outside the bed. You know? So but yeah, the emotional part is really huge for me. And
And
I know
one
someone,
caution she says is to go slow because of the
yes,
emotional part. Get support,
yes.
call someone in, get a second opinion. What do you think about this? And
Yeah, let's go with
you know,
Angela. Like, let's
that,
let Angela share because that is her profession. And Angela is going to speak at our next Gainesville meeting, which will be February 12th,
okay.
at 3. So please make note of that.
I'm very much looking forward to that. And thank you, Anna, and thank you, Shanti. I really was touched by both of your shares. I have some tips that I can give, certainly, for either those of you who are here right now with me, as well as your clients and friends and family members. Because all of this, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've owned my business, and now currently have 4 team members who are all experienced professional home organizers as well, and they are well versed in the same style of decluttering and organizing that I do, which is essentially exactly what we're talking about. Of that, I always say it's never just about the stuff. It's about letting go of old identities. It's about processing grief. It's about letting go of feelings of guilt and shame, these really big, heavy emotions. And all of you are well versed in dealing with grief, right? This is what you do in the world, is help support people through that grieving process. And obviously, all of us are human too. We all have our attachments to things. I actually have a blog post that I just wrote earlier today related to men in relationships and letting go, and how, even as a somewhat expert, as much as anyone can be an expert in letting go, it's still difficult to let go of attachment to people and to things. So I just want to acknowledge that occurs with, we get attached to everything. And I believe in the Buddhist philosophy of trying to practice non-attachment, but none of us have reached enlightenment yet that I'm aware of. So we all still have attachments to things. So a quick, really practical tip. Actually, I could talk about this for hours, so I'll just give a couple practical tips that I think could be the most useful. One is, if you have something you're working with, let's just say it's for yourself and it's in your home. Shanti, you gave the example, if I may use your share to share an example of clothing that's from 25 pounds ago. You could, maybe it's a favorite dress or a favorite shirt or something that just is like, wow, this really does not fit the body that I have now. I feel like we feel that pull of like, like the heartstrings, kind of like, heartstrings are being plucked. And but like, I would encourage you to take one item, just starting small. I agree with that. If you're going to do it on your own, start small. My team and I come in and do whirlwind transformation change. But if you're doing it on your own, definitely bit by bit. So Shanti, I would encourage you to find one thing, hold that thing in your arms. And might sound a little woo-woo, but I promise you, we do this, my team and I do this with clients all the time. Hold that thing in your arms and send it gratitude for whatever it did for you. So let's say if it was a favorite dress and you have a really specific memory of a vacation or some other really joyful memory of you wearing that dress, and you're like, okay, this dress does not fit me. I can pass it on to a thrift store. Maybe somebody else will pick it up. You hold that dress to your heart, send it gratitude for whatever it did for you. And it could be, a winter coat that doesn't fit anymore. And maybe that winter coat kept you warm a few times on a vacation or something, or in Florida right now when it's cold for a couple of weeks. Or maybe it was something that you purchased that maybe you never even had worn. It's kind of like Anna, I think you said something about that attachment of like, oh, I paid good money for that. Oh, I feel guilty that I never used that thing that I paid money for. So in that case, you still hold the item to your heart because it did something for you, even if the only thing it did for you was bring you that moment of joy when you purchased it. Sometimes that's the end of the usefulness of an item, but the process is just whatever that one thing is, hold it to your heart, send it gratitude. If it was a gift that you're wanting to pass along, sending that person gratitude, because the gift is never really the physical thing. The gift is the expression of love or gratitude or celebration. So sending the person or sending the item, close your eyes, really feel it and kind of infuse that energy of love and gratitude and appreciation for that item. And then after you hold it, you might cry for a moment. Many clients are surprised when they cry in this process. Hold it to your heart and then drop it in a donation bag. Ideally, one that you can then seal, especially if it's kind of an emotionally charged thing. And I encourage clients, and I do this myself also because I'm also human and have attachments, but I encourage clients to all have, you like to use a Trader Joe's bag just because it's nice and sturdy. At the bottom of the floor of my closet, there's always a bag or a box. If I try something on and it doesn't fit, or if it has a hole in it, or if I decide I don't like it anymore, or if it never really fit right, whatever that thing, if I put it on, it's almost like when you grab a pen that doesn't write and you're like, oh, this pen's out of ink, and then you put it back in the drawer. Yeah, don't do that. So when you
Right.
try something on and it doesn't work for you, always have that donation bin to kind of keep that flow, keep that
I
flow.
have literally put things in bags and taken them back out and put them back on the hanger and blah blah blah. Thank you so much. That's just a little preview of some of what Angela will be able to share with us. I do want to give everyone a chance to have a little say or share if you'd like. You can just unmute and so we'll all have a chance. Anybody? Dawn, yeah.
I have a circumstance that I think about. I went to work one day and I got a call from a state trooper, and the house that I was living in and sharing with someone else was on fire, and everything I owned, except luckily my children's pictures that were under a staircase in a little small closet, did not catch on fire. And it was really painful for a while because I had some of my grandmother's dishes and my mother's things. And my mother was alive, but she had dementia at that point, and it was tough. And then I realized, it was a loss, and I had to process it just like any other grief. I had to process it. And I have a jacket, a winter jacket that I got because I was living in New York State at the time. And it I went out and purchased a winter jacket that night because it was in November and it was cold. And I still have that jacket. And every time I look at that, I think I'm lucky that I could do that. I'm lucky that I could go get a jacket right away. So that's one of my memories of, one thing is processing the grief, and the other is this jacket that I still have 12 years later, 13 years later. And I'm not giving it up. But it was a lot to process at that time.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. Yeah. Who else? Jackie?
Yeah. For me, I think I had a big change in my life when my first son left to college. This is his third year there. I have a junior in high school, which will be leaving hopefully next year, off to college. So I think like what she was saying about the fire, that like what really means to, like a lot to you, what are things that you need to have? And I started, I don't know if it's that and just everything happening in my life right now with menopause and everything, but I just started feeling like I needed to shed all the stuff that I have. There's just so much stuff that I don't need that I've had for years, and I can't find an actual logical reason why I need it. And I just started giving things away. I've been giving things away now for a good 2 years. And believe it or not, I still have more crap to give away. So it's like a constant thing. I tell my family for Christmas, please don't give me anything. Please, I don't want anything. Just give me your time. Let's bake together, let's cook together, let's spend that time together. But it's like a constant of giving things away, and it brings me satisfaction, especially when I can give things that people can find useful that they can use. I enjoy that more than anything, and I'm to the point where it's like I want to just really sell my house and move into like a 2-bedroom cabin in the middle of the woods and just take my dogs, and that's it. It's like I don't know if it's just that the time of my life I'm in right now, but I've been doing this for like 2 years, and I feel a lot lighter, and I feel like I'm decluttering my mind in some way. So it
Mhm.
brings me a lot of joy to be able to do that. I wish I could do it faster. But working and with everything and travel, and it's taken me a little bit longer, but I think that I'm getting it done at the pace that I need to get it done. But I definitely look forward to getting rid of everything I have.
You
Yeah.
know, one of the things that we've mentioned in the past has been to start anywhere, and just if you just want to do 15 or 30 minutes a day, or open a drawer and say, I'm going to clean this drawer out before the day's out, or just pick anything, start someplace. That's what I've done, and just saying, I'm going to take care of this right away, right now, because it's easy and I can do it. And I see the sense of like, wow, that's never been that organized. And so, or dedicate that every month you're going to throw away or give away a certain amount of things, clear out and organize and take away that feeling of clutter. But I think more is about identifying what you'd be willing to get rid of or let it be gone if tonight is your last night. Where would everything go? That's what I say to myself. Am I at peace? I'm not. I have work to do, but I'm starting now and I am going to continue on. So gradually, slowly.
I know, Chris, you were saying you might have to leave early. Did you have anything you wanted to share?
If you haven't read The Five Levels of Attachment by Dr. Ruiz, it's Toltec tradition, Toltec religion, whatever you want to call it. It is a beautiful book that talks about how attached we can get to something on 5 different levels. Some of us, we loved soccer at one point, and then we loved a team, and then we loved a t-shirt, and then you start to get into bad levels of attachment of where you're now getting angry about it, or you want to start a fight about it because someone's like, "Oh, I don't like that team." And you're like, "Well, I'm gonna throw down." That's not really good. So then the part of the book starts talking about how do you reverse it? Once you become so attached to something, how do you let go? And so I've heard letting go throughout multiple of you're all talking. And sometimes you just distance yourself from it. So if it's sitting on the counter and you're looking at it all the time, but you never use it, put it in a cabinet. Give a little space, a little distance between it. Maybe you give it to someone, but it's one of the strategies that I use to let go of an object, a material part of this world is sometimes I'll take a picture of it because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna miss that. So I'll take a picture, I'll put it away, and if it gathers dust on it, dust on something means you don't use it. I'm not going to clean it every day. So maybe pass it on. And if it's something really meaningful and you have a close relative or a friend and you think that they would love it, good. So every time I visit them, maybe I see it. So talks about just setting a little bit of distance because there's things that become attached to us, relationships and material world.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I wrote the name of the book down, Five Levels of Attachment.
Yeah, I actually
Who's the author again? Oh, he has it.
Yeah, it's I gotta turn off my blur every time I share.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Cool. Who's the author?
Don Miguel Ruiz. It's
Okay.
Toltec, so ancient religions of the it's like the Aztecs, the and Mayans. I mean, you'll find it in many, but
Great.
it seems
Wonderful.
quite
Good.
similar to Buddhist belief.
I did his book that was called The Four Agreements. That was wonderful
Yes.
too. It's a
Great.
wonderful
Nice.
book. He's really a good writer.
All right.
Really,
Good to know.
really wise. Thank you.
Wise is
Chris.
what we need.
He's a
Yeah.
shaman and a sage.
Yeah,
Mhm. Awesome.
very good.
Any-
Yeah.
Anyone else who hasn't had a chance to share? There's a couple of people. You're welcome to if you wish.
I just want to thank you all for letting me listen in. And Anna, that was just a very, very inspiring lecture. I so much appreciate your insight and your wisdom. And
Being here.
I've been going through this process for several years, but I really have embraced it as we've turned the corner to 2025. I feel like this is the year that I'm going to really make a difference with my collections of many different lives. And and the hardest part is some of it is, associated with my children and pictures that they drew, their artwork from when they were children. And I had a really beautiful experience with my son, who's 44, was here at Christmas, and his daughter, my granddaughter, who's 10, took me out into my art room, which is a total mess. And I never go out there because it's not a place that I enjoy being. And so I have stopped doing art, but she wanted to do this little art project. And so she was out there. And so I joined her and I started going through some things. And I found a picture that I had bought for my husband that I never gave to him. And so she and I made a frame for it and gave him that for Christmas. But some of my son was picture that my son had made when he was 10, I had saved all these years, and I wrapped it up and gave it to him for Christmas. And he was really thrilled. He just kind of he'd totally forgotten it, and his children were like, "Dad, you did that?" That was so. It was just felt good that there is a positive side of holding on to things that are precious, and it felt really good to let it go back to its previous owner. And I also gave him my electric bass that I bought in 1985, 86. And I don't play it anymore, and it's too heavy. And it was a part of my life that had a lot of meaning. And he expressed interest into it, and I said, "It's yours. You can take it home with you." And it fit in his car. And so one by one, I'm letting go of things. And I got inspired I'm going to go through all of my art stuff and donate at least 75% of it, because I don't need all of it now and I'm not going to use it. And I don't know if this is a wise thing or not, but part of what I realized is I didn't use that room because I didn't like that room. So I found a place in my house that I do like, that gets the most light, and I emptied out a closet, and I'm going to put the things that are really important to me in that closet, and the overflow I'm going to get rid of. So I don't know. It's a big process. And the thing that I'm really having trouble with too is all of the writings that I've done over the years, and bins of journals and poetry and stories and things. And it's on the list, but I don't know exactly how to get it all, what to keep and what to let go of. because as I go through, I've been finding things that it's like, I can't believe I wrote that. And wow, I'm not ready to let go of it. So thank you so much though for sharing.
Thanks, Paula. Yeah, our Gainesville group a couple of months ago, we had a workshop. We recorded it too with Susanna Huff on writing your memoirs. So some of those writings, we do want to capture to leave behind our story. And so that's a really good aspect of it, a project that we can do. And again, listening to each other and helping each other sort out what we want to share about our lives and things like that. It's really good. I think we have one more person who hasn't spoken yet. You're welcome if you wish.
First of all, thanks for inviting me. I really love this group, and I don't know any of you, but I love this energy. I of course know Shanti and Anna, as I've met them briefly once and then twice, respectively. And I am not yet in doula practice, but I have just recently gotten certified, and I'm really proud of that. But I have so many interests, and I actually had to turn off my brain for a month because there's so much to learn in life. There's so much in general that I'm interested in and helping people. But I realized I needed this so much just to grieve my mother. I needed to do this program to help me just open up my heart, and I was able to do that. I was able to just to process it because I've made so many connections with people like you, and it's just been an incredible gift. And so I just have so much gratitude for meeting all of you and to hear your stories and hear you share your very unique ideas. I'm sorry, my dog is very excited to be here too. I'm just honored and grateful. So thank you for sharing all your stories.
Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, I remember our visit some time ago. It was wonderful. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So I want to say, please feel free to put your name, your phone number, your email, anything you'd like to share with the group into the chat. And so in the last few minutes, people can check the chat, write things down. We'll save the chat too. But just to make connections with one another. Also, Fielda is now a nonprofit. We received our nonprofit status in June, and if you go to our website and you wish to make a donation, we're still trying to get even. And we have some fees and things coming up with the state and whatnot. So fielda.org, and then you just go to the support us section, and if you'd like to make a donation, that would be wonderful. And then I'm just going to let Anna say whatever closing words you'd like to share with us, and we'll turn off the recording.
Well, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share this topic. It's certainly a passion of mine, and I do just enjoy the fact that we can get together and talk about this most magnificent place that is our home. The home where you live in, where I leave you at now, and the home that you carry around with you. Let's pay attention to those things. And I invite, if you have a topic that you want to hear about or something that you want to learn more about, let us know and we'll discuss that too, because we can get through this together and with good support. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, thanks so much.